Previously on MeatEater Hunts. I'm in Colorado with Jason Phelps, owner and operator of Phelps Game Calls. After 2 days of lackluster hunting on a private ranch,
they're not talking at all, so they're not making any noise.
We've switched gears and moved to higher ground on nearby public land. It's made all the difference in the world. We've called in 2 bulls so far, and while I haven't released an arrow yet, these woods seem ripe with opportunity. After a close encounter with a small bull, we're pushing forward hoping to engage with another. We've seen a few glimpses of one through the trees, and he's been very talkative so far. That sharp, staccato chuckle means this bull's ready to fight. Jason chuckles right back, which should fire him up even more.
He's crashed.
I saw blood come out as soon as the arrow hit him. So, as you saw there, it was almost straight frontal. He might have still been quartering just a little bit. I took that into account. I aimed just a hair to the right, to hopefully send it through the middle of the vitals. But Jason and I were talking about that off camera yesterday, because I had never taken a frontal shot on any animal.
I would say it's more deadly if done right.
You're basically shooting it through almost like this pocket on you.
Yeah.
But because on an elk, his torso is like this. When it goes through there at the base of the neck, then it goes just into the cavity.
Yeah.
And you should be getting at least a lung.
Yep, and we know just from the reaction on this shot, you hit it in the right place because we instantly had blood, like the second it hit. So you hit that pressurized area. Heart, lung, we should be good, but still give it 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah. On any tracking, I guess if we'd watched him fall over and we could see him dead, we'd walk right up to him. But even though, it sounded like he only crashed at 60 yards. But even then, he could be there with his head up, and we take 10 more steps right now, and all of a sudden we bump him, and then you have who knows how long of a tracking job versus you sit here for 40 minutes and he slowly just gets drowsy, tips over and dies.
We have one big solid gummy bear package.
I'm gonna go with the apple. So we waited 45 minutes. Now we're just gonna go to where he was standing and hopefully pick up blood. Hopefully walk it 50 yards to where he's laying, is my hope.
There's blood already. Is that him piled up right there? Or is that just the end of the log?
That's a bull.
Congrats, buddy.
Those are the kind of tracking jobs you like.
You don't have to pay attention to blood anymore.
Oh,
You didn't make it far.
I can't tell you what a relief that is, man.
Yeah, there's always that little bit of anxiety after a shot, like whether you're gonna find him or not, or you made a good shot, but not. Well, that isn't.
Well, let's range it. I mean,
70 yards?
78.
Did not make it far at all. Whew.
My first bull elk, man.
Congrats, congrats.
Good work on the call. I couldn't ask for a better death.
Nope. It's super, super quick, clean, ethical.
We'll get to work.
Yeah. Are you cool with every muscle coming off individually? Like I'll go in and take like the individual steaks out.
Oh, you will? Separate them now?
Just because it's quicker to get them off that way.
Really? I'd like to see that.
Okay.
Well, what we're doing here is called the gutless method, where we're taking the quarters off the back straps before we gut it. Some people like to do completely one way. Some people always like to gut first. To me anymore, I've done both of them so many times that it's sixes. Like, it seems to me like they take about the same amount of time. You still get roughly the same bloody and dirty doing it both ways. But this is gutless. Guts are still in him. We're gonna have all 4 quarters, back straps off, and then we'll just sort of do some micro incisions to get to the heart and the tenderloins.
Jason is showing me his preferred method, which is to take the meat off in small parts. Whole muscle instead of whole quarters.
First big steaks off.
It's effectively deboning on the fly. Deboning the meat is a must to shave a considerable amount of weight on our 3-hour pack out.
Yeah, buddy. That's the goods there.
Along the way, we find the arrowhead protruding from the rear of the bull's abdomen, almost poking into the ham. My arrow and broadhead performed flawlessly.
Yeah, hard to live very long when you have a broadhead pass through 4 feet of your body.
Yeah, and took out all the goodies on the way.
All right, so we got 4 quarters off, back straps off, neck roast off. We're going inside now for tenderloins and heart.
Removing the tenderloin with the guts intact requires some nimble knife work just below the short ribs.
Just kind of a tickle with your knife.
But with a little patience, it's definitely possible.
Here's that tenderloin just sitting right inside.
There you go.
We get most of that one little cut in it, but able to get most of that tenderloin out without much damage.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Another incision into the ribs, and we have access to the heart.
There she be.
Missed his heart. I'm guessing I went over the top
Right
of
over
it,
top,
don't you
yeah.
think?
Yep.
2.5 hours later, we finished butchering, packed our bags, and are ready for the long hike out. The high country public land hunting was so good, we're hiking our butts right back up there the next day. But the tables have turned. Jason is now behind the arrow, and I'm doing the calling.
Yeah, the pressure's on for me. I gotta do some serious calling now.
Oh, you're fine. I heard you the other day a little bit here.
I don't even think I've bugled through a tube since 2019, so.
Are you trying to build my confidence or not in your calling?
I'm trying to just set expectations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outside of my calling ability, expectations are fairly high right now. We've got a solid plan.
And so we're gonna work basically just up this ridge and call down into here.
We know the country, and we're pretty darn sure there's still a couple of bulls up here. Everything feels like it's falling into place. As the saying goes, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
It might rank up there as the number one, like, most extreme, hot to cold, complete 180 I've ever experienced elk hunting.
Yeah, I mean, we've hit the stuff they were in. We've hit the stuff where you said the ones we could hear off in the distance. We've hit their areas. Just nothing. Elk that we know we did not touch. They had no clue we were alive.
I'm speechless.
Radio silence.
We spend all day hiking, glassing, bugling, and bugling some more. We set up camp and stay the night and repeat the process the next day. No response, no sightings. Crickets. That's elk hunting for you. Here one day, gone the next. And then, towards the end of our last day, an opportunity finally presents itself.
We got a bull that's like kind of half-ass bugling, just over the ridge, probably 200 or 300 yards.
Here it comes, right there. He was peeking around those two little sticks right there at less than 20, just right here. But all I could see was his front shoulder and way too quartering. I just didn't want to take that shot.
Finally wind us.
I slowly disappeared and let down. And I think he just saw, I just kind of floated behind the tree to let down, and I thought maybe I could get him to stop out in here, but he was gone.
Oh, so close.
It's running through your mind, but you're like, at that angle, you're not gonna catch any vitals. Like, even if I put it in the shoulder, like, you know, you can't see enough of his opposite side to catch anything good. So it's just, I needed one more step for anything good. Still fun.
Oh, yeah.
Out of time and almost out of daylight, we start to head back to camp.
That's true.
There are many reasons I love bow hunting. It takes a wide variety of skill sets, from tracking to calling. It tests your patience and endurance, But I think the biggest reason is just the pure raw challenge of it all. And in that regard, this was a pretty fulfilling trip. This here is what they call the flat iron steak or the clawed steak. Where this comes from, and I apologize for not showing you when we butchered the shoulder off my bull, but if you imagine that scapula and it's got that little ridge that runs down it, and one side's pretty narrow of that ridge, and then the other side's a little bit fatter. Well, this sits on that fat side of that ridge, right on top of the scapula. It's pretty much the biggest chunk of meat that comes off in kind of one, what we call a whole muscle cut off of the shoulder. So, the tricky part about this one is that it's got a strip of sinew that pretty much runs the whole length of it. You can see kind of the tail here where it starts, and it runs the whole length of this roast. Now, if you just leave it in there, it's going to be terrible to mess with. But you cut it out of there and then just cook the two pieces. As you're going to see, we're going to basically split this thing in half and cut it out. It's as tender, can be as tender as a tenderloin, and has way more flavor because it comes out of a place where the muscle actually works, the front shoulder, right? Your tenderloin can be, some people call it bland because it doesn't do much. It just basically sits and hangs out there. I'm going to cook half of this one up for Jason. We'll see if I can make a believer out of him too. Okay, as with any whole roast, we're gonna clean it up as much as possible. Clean up the silver skin here. Okay, now to get this silver skin tendon, whatever you want to call it, like I said, it runs all the way down this sucker and probably ends right here, about 3/4 of the way down. I'm just gonna basically treat it like a fish, like I'm filleting a fillet off of a fish. The first one's a little bit tougher because you're kind of having to, work down the middle. Once you get half of it off, then the other side's easy. It's just like filleting the skin off of a fish. I'm going to grab the little tail here, just come in and angle my blade down towards that silver skin. For this side, I'm just going to pretend like this is the steak skin if it was a fish. Put it down skin side, grab it. You can even use a fork to hold that tail. There you go. You can see that's that silver skin. It runs straight smack dab through the middle of it. If you just cooked it whole, you'd have to deal with that with every bite. Be real pain. Okay, I'm gonna do a real simple preparation with this steak. I'm just gonna olive oil it, a little bit of MeatEater seasonings on it, and I'm just gonna basically pan sear it on a cast iron skillet. Basically just hit it on both sides for 5 minutes or so, and then I'll serve it up to Jason so he can see what it's all about. Still got a little wiggle to it in there, and I'm guessing it needs 3 to 5 in the oven. So I'm gonna pitch her down low at 375. Should be good. Yeah, I'm letting it sit for maybe just 5 or 10 minutes. After you're done cooking it, it's always good to let the meat rest and let those juices let the muscle relax and the juices kind of flow back into it.
So what's your opinion now? I know you had mentioned sometimes through the hunt, I'm kind of becoming a bugle believer, because we take a lot of heat. People that watch our videos or listen to some of our education, hey, you guys bugle way too much and you're educating all the elk, scaring them. But what's your take now? I kind of bugle a lot. And
my elk hunting mentors definitely came from the school of call soft, call little. I wasn't even taught how to bugle, but there came a time where I sort of just came into my own. I started getting more and more into calling, and I realized that sometimes, boy, you can make a lot of noise and it's going to bring them in, you know? It's that or a cow call that is you're trying to get almost as loud as that bugle to locate one, you know? And I don't think you're educating them.
Yeah. And that's...
I mean, unless you're always bugling with the wind on your back where you know there's one.
Yeah, and that's where, you don't have to be the greatest caller in the world to call elk in, but that might be one instance where, like, sounding like a real elk might be, if you're going to bugle that much, at least sound like the real thing, so you're not, they're not hearing foreign sounds or getting spooked or scaring off. And I just envision as I'm walking through the woods, I don't want to come up and spook elk, which we did multiple times on this trip. You're walking, trying to get, or not even know that group's there, trying to get to a bugle or to an area. And you bust them. At least if you had bugled 100, 150 yards away, maybe they would have responded and given you the chance to play that group of elk versus just busting into them and scaring them. So that's kind of my mind thought behind it.
And you really got to be doing both, Just because you bugled a bunch, you can't be like, oh, they're not ahead of us. You should still be hunting your way into an area. All right, let's break into the flat iron here.
Okay, this is what we usually turn into burger meat.
The grain runs pretty much straight through lengthwise. It's got super long grains. So you really want to cut it across those grains, which will make it very chewable. Now, Steve usually likes to serve like little side of vegetables, a glass of red wine, forks, knives. This is caveman style.
Perfect.
Buckskins and your fingers. Have at it. Come on, tender.
That's good.
Right?
Better than burger.
Kind of surprisingly tender for just a random cut off the shoulder, huh?
For sure. That's really good.
It might not be quite tenderloin tender, but it's
close.
I mean, I bet you it'll stand up against any muscle that comes out of the ham.
Oh yeah, for sure.
As far as tenderness goes.
Yeah, even backstrap, I think. I mean, it's right there.
Oh.
Backstrap, tenderloin.
As they say in Latvia, prieka.
Prieka. Did I do that right?
Yeah,
All right.
close enough.
Perfect.